Hello friends, welcome to Crafty Christmas in July 2023. Today I'm working on putting the cover on this journal, and I'm also going to be working on developing some of the pages, adding some pockets, belly bands, a little bit of embellishing. I'm so glad that you are here to spend some time with me. I'm going to get into formal introductions in just a second, but I want to let you know what I'm doing with this cover first. I've chosen a piece of 12 by 12 scrapbook paper. This is nice, heavy-duty scrapbook paper, and that's what I'm going to use for the cover. This is a simple one signature journal. I don't want the inside of the cover to be plain, so you know how sometimes scrapbook packs come with these 6x6 cutter parts? Well, the scrapbook pack that I'm using, one of them, came with that. And so that's what I'm going to use on the inside of the cover so that the cover's not plain. I'm going to glue one of the 6x6s to the front upper part of the cover and the one to the back upper part of the cover. When I cut the 12 by 12 paper to size, I had a piece of scrap, and you can see it, I'm holding it right here. Well, that's perfect. It's the perfect size, and I've decided to use that to create a pocket for both the front and the back cover. I'm going to cut at a slight angle right down the center. So you can see here where I cut that. And the reason I do that is because that way when you open and close the cover, you won't have that extra paper in the way that gets kind of crunched up. Next, I'm going to sew the signature to the cover. So I have grabbed my wax thread, my awl, and my needle. I measured my thread to be 3 times the length of the journal. When I first started, I used to measure this out, but I don't really need to do that anymore, especially when you're working with one signature. It's just not that big of a deal. So just make sure your papers are straight and not upside down, and then grab your awl and put a hole in the center. I take a little bit of a shortcut here, and I put my needle in the center and I leave it there because, believe it or not, it holds things steady while I pop a hole above it. Then you can see I left the needle there above as well, and now I'm popping a hole down in the bottom. Now I'm going to pull that needle through and push it through the bottom hole. So now I've gone through 3 holes. Now I'm going back up through the center. Now the hard part's done. Make sure you have a piece of thread on each side of that piece of wax thread that goes the long way inside. You want to have a piece of thread on each side. Then pull your threads tight and check the back like I did and make sure they are in fact tight. Then I triple knot it. Then I squish it down with a clothespin or whatever. That kind of melds the waxes together and your knot won't come undone. Now that the journal has been sewn together, I'm going to begin working on putting my belly bands in first. I made these belly bands a few videos ago, and that was a lot of fun. I'll be sure to attach that video in my description box. Now I'd like to go ahead and get into the formal introductions for Crafty Christmas in July 2023. Our hosts are Sweet Pea Papers and Lisa's Paper Lace and Bling. There are 14 awesome collaborators. Please check them out. They are listed in my description box. I'd also like to mention that Sweet Pea Papers is having a drawing on her Facebook channel, which is listed in my description box. You can head over there and see the details and prizes for that. And also, Lisa's Paper Lace and Bling is having a sale from July 1st to July 31st. So I figured I'd start with getting the 3 belly bands into the journal that I had made earlier in this series. This is not the usual way that I build my journals. I usually kind of do it the opposite of how I've done this one. I don't make like the goodies first and then put them in the journal. I usually put my pages together and then make the goodies to go in. But this is working fine because I used all the same, scrapbook papers. So whether I made them before or after or whatever, everything's going to go together really nicely. I have some scraps from the scrapbook paper that I've been using to create this journal. You can see some of them on the right hand side of my desk. And I definitely want to use those to make more belly bands perhaps, or side pockets. And then I might use some of those small strips to create some paper tabs. I had this piece of green scrapbook paper that is a scrap, and it's a good size scrap, but nevertheless. So I'm going to create an upper pocket with that. You can see I just cut it at an angle and it will work perfectly up at the top of a page. Not only am I working with some scrapbook packs, but I'm also working with my digital kit that I created, and it's called Retro Christmas. Well, I want to use a piece of the ephemera from my kit to create this pocket. I just want to find a little something that I can put on top of that pocket. I have this piece here. I had already cut it in an interesting shape, and actually it's going to be perfect for the shape of the pocket. To me, it's perfectly clear we're falling in love. Here are some scraps. They are strips of paper, probably made from cutting pages down to size, and they're too small to use for pockets or anything like that, but they're a perfect size to make some paper tabs. So that's what I'm doing here, and I'm using my jagged edge scissors to, just so that when I cut them, it's not like, plain. Although I have done it plain and it's not a problem. I just happened to think about using these jagged scissors, and I just thought that would add some interest. So I've cut some of those. I can put those on where I want to. And then back to the strips. Though they are a bit too small to create pockets or anything like that, I can still use them to decorate like a side pocket. I was thinking about adding a tab here, but before I do anything like that, I want to make sure that if I want to put lace on a page, that I don't add a tab to it. Because once I add a tab, it's a little bit awkward to add the lace. I mean, not that it couldn't be done, I just don't prefer to do that. Right now I am using lace that was sent to me by Lisa's Paper Lace and Bling, and I'm so happy to use it in this journal. And I've decided that I want to go ahead and add some to the page that I just created a pocket on. And that page will be pretty much done, except for finding something to stuff in the pocket. To me, it's perfectly clear we're falling in love. It's true, this part of the year has something in store for us. We're falling in love. Summer ended. So you guys know how many of us have the decorative scissors, and I use my jagged ones a lot, but I also have a pair, these right here actually, and they have a wave on them, and I hardly ever use them. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and use them today, but I want to make sure I do it sort of in a straight line. So I drew a line right down the page, and that way I can make sure when I'm using these scissors, I'm not going all over the place. This is going to be a side pocket, and now I can use one of those strips that I have that they're scraps. So this will be fun to use some of these up and get these off of my desk, and then I won't feel like I've got to store them or throw them in a recycling bin. Then it starts to snow in our hearts. We both know that we're falling in love. To me, it's perfectly clear we're falling in love. It's true, this part of the year. I've decided to go ahead and add a piece of lace down the side of this page as well.
We're falling in love. We're falling in love. No,
At some point in time, I got a little red mark on that lace, so I've decided I'm going to put one of my tabs over top of it, and that way nobody will be able to see it. Since I had cut that green scrapbook sheet in half, now I get to use the other half. So typically when I'm working in a journal, I will go, like if I do something in the front, then, and I have like a matching piece, I'll go to the back and put it back there. And that way the designs are spread out through the journal and nothing's too heavily weighted in one particular area. Here we have another opportunity to use a piece of our scrap. And I mentioned in a previous video that that's something I'm sort of always thinking about when I'm making a journal, because I do not want to keep adding to my scrap pile. So anything that I can use within the journal, any offcuts, anything like that, I really do try to find a way to incorporate them. The last thing that I'm going to do in today's video is I'm making like a card that will go in this pretty envelope that you can see at the top of the screen. I'm adding some lace to the card, and then the left side of it is going to like flip over. You'll see that in just a second. There we go. And we're going to stuff that in the envelope, and then that's going to go underneath one of the belly bands. Friends, I really appreciate you coming over and spending some time with me today. Thanks for watching. See you soon.